It's really important that we have excellent schools in Watford and that we support young people. So some of the things that we are doing, first of all, I work really closely with the Watford Chamber of Commerce, and they have a large number of apprenticeships. We've got apprenticeships at the council as well, which I think is really important for giving young people opportunities for that first bit of experience, because I know that as a former sixth form teacher, having that on your CV to enter the world of work is very important. And then I think the other thing is support for mental health, that we have a healthy hub at the town hall that's got a focus on mental health and well-being, and Jen Patterson leads that work. I think it's been a very, very difficult 2 years for everyone. I think there's a mental health impact of that on young people and people of all ages, and we're keen to support them through that. There's a number of other things that I'll point out to, for example, having fantastic leisure facilities, things like the Oxley Activity Skate Park. We have free swim and gym for young people in our leisure centres during school holidays. So I recognise how important it is, and as I say, although we're not the Education Authority, there's lots of work we can do more broadly to support young people so that they can achieve their potential in all aspects. Thank you.
Thank you, Deep, and I hope the audio is better now, but let us see. Thank you for that question about schooling. For me, as a product of the education system of Watford, it's something that's really close to my heart, and of course, as someone who speaks to residents who tell me that the draw of the schools across Watford is a big reason as to why young families choose to bring their families here in Watford, and that's something we can be so proud of. We have brilliant schools, secondary schools, West Herts College, Watford UTC. There are brilliant opportunities for young people across Watford, and we should continue to be proud of that. For me, of course, as this is a Hertfordshire Conservative, it is Conservative, Hertfordshire County Council issue, which is led by the Conservatives, I believe that alignment will be so important in Watford. It doesn't hurt that as a Conservative, and with someone who's got the MP as a Conservative and the County Council as Conservative, it will not hurt having that alignment, because I pledge to work with, not against, those authorities to ensure the best deal for the young people of Watford. It's really important too that we do obviously put mental health at the start, and I'm so proud to be part of an army of over 500 mental health first aiders across Watford, which is a brilliant scheme that was put forward by both the Watford Chamber of Commerce and our MP, Dean Russell. I'm so proud to be part of that team and to be leading and to see leadership on that in this town. So there's much we can do. I'm proud to be a product of that system, and I think we need to do much more to make sure that the opportunities for young people are to flourish here in Watford.
Michael, you've got a question?
Thank you. Can I, if I answer for you, Deep. So I work in further education. I've been working in it for about 21, 22 years now. It is my passion, and part of my thing about reducing poverty and making it is that progression from students, from young people into careers, and providing that traineeship and providing that support that they needed. So what the council can do, absolutely, the county council plays a big role. The college itself, West Herts College, plays a big role, as well as other Hertfordshire colleges and colleges in the area which come into. And one of the key things as a council would be, as a mayor, is to support that progression routes. That could well be apprenticeships. There's also more youth activities. I would reinstate some of the supervised play areas that were cut in the previous administration. That has a detrimental impact on poverty and that progression and that youth leadership that's necessary. I think all of those things put into place will mean that young people in Watford will have that platform such that they can flourish in their lives. We also need to target areas where there are high degrees of education attainment levels are lower. White British are the areas that we need to focus on. Black and Afro-Caribbean kids are also underperforming, and Pakistani Bengali kids as well are underperforming when it comes to education. So what can we do as a council, although we're not the Education Authority? It's key that we put in policies that support what the Education Authority is doing and what other colleges and institutions are doing. and provide that leadership and that inspiration. You know, I was born in a council house in the Mayoral estate in the 70s. Can you believe that? We were the 2 Asian households in the Mayoral estate in the 70s where we used to get stones thrown at our windows. You had the National Front, NF, scattered on our garden. My father used to park his car in Morris Marina in the Tudor estate, make us walk and across the A41 just for the car. I said, Dad, it was because you've got Morris Marina, that's why you used to get stoned, not because of the racism that we used to face in the 70s. And a council estate, but it was education, and that struggle that got us through. You know, I went into the grammar school, got educated, etc. You know, there are role models within our society, in our town, and that's what we can do, irrespective of the Conservative, Liberal, Democrats, just flourish on our youth and bring that youth. In the Meriden estate isn't like that anymore, but it's the 70s we're talking about. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you for that. We do have a question. Is it from Simon Feldman that you're referring to? Online. The question is to each candidate. I was hoping that we would maybe address another question after this specific to cost of living, unless you have to rush away. We may be over a few minutes. But the question from Simon is, for each candidate, what's the best achievement you are proud of doing for Watford in the last 4 years? In the last 4 years, what achievement, what have you done that you're most proud of? Who would like to start? Benita, Benita, please.
So, as someone who's had the privilege of serving as the last Conservative leader on Watford Council, but the youngest in the country, I'm delighted to have played a part in making sure that the Watford market, which was sadly, and not really to the Watford market traders, to their plan, shunned into a back alley. But I remember, and I'm very proud of this, fighting really hard, because when that was a wind tunnel up there, you see where when you go around the ring road and there's that awning which has now recently been rebranded, which says the Watford market used to be called the new Watford market. I'm so proud to have been part of that lobbying, because when the Lib Dems made that decision to put it into a back alley, I remember going in there and it was freezing, there was no trade, people were not incentivised at all to go there. It was October when this happened and it was freezing, only going to get worse. So I'm privileged to have been part of that team that was lobbying for those wind shields to ensure that it is as thriving as it can be, and protecting those small business owners who, of course, in the pandemic have been even more affected. And as I mentioned, as someone with small business, which is in my blood, in fact, we're here in Garston here today, and my sister and my dad are pharmacists only locally here in Garston. My brother-in-law over in Abbots. It's really important for me to see that businesses are being backed by this council and not taken for granted, and we are supporting them where they need to be supported, because the employment they provide for this town is of crucial importance. And I would do a lot more to save our parades across our town, including tackling the parking crisis, which is happening across the town.
Thank you. The way I was brought up, pride was something to be negative. It was a negative connotation. Don't be too proud of it. My dad used to tell me. What I do have pride in was the response of the Watford people during the COVID. I was really proud to be part of this town, proud of that civil response, proud of One Vision for the work they had carried out, proud of the volunteer groups that went out and provided that support during COVID. I was proud that the town came together. I was proud of the veterans groups that I worked with to support the veterans and put up poppies, front and centre across lampposts. I was proud to work with the faith groups who were fantastic. Proud with the schools, the churches, the mosques, the synagogues, the gurdwaras, the communities. I'm proud to be a Watfordian. I think that's what I've got to say about that. And I'm just a humble servant. I'm a public servant, irrespective. And as a servant, you're there, constantly working. And my parents really, the ego and trying to get rid of that ego acid and whatever. That was one of the things of my my upbringing. So trying to be as altruistic as possible and shun your pride. Anyway, that's...
Thank you. Thank you. Peter.
Thanks. I mean, I agree. The response to COVID was phenomenal. We also take pride in that. For me, perhaps, and there's lots of things that we've achieved over the last few years that I'm proud of, but the thing that perhaps matters most to me, maybe because my parents have just been down helping with childcare the last couple of days, is the work we've done in relation to dementia. My granddad lived with dementia for many years, and the Alzheimer's Society estimated that there were 1,000 people in Watford living with dementia. And previously, there were little bits of things happening, but there was no coordination. And dementia-friendly Watford work we've done has been kind of the best of Watford. It's been about bringing lots of different groups together. The football club are involved with it, the Chamber of Commerce, the council, businesses, faith groups, and everybody. And it means that, I was out knocking on doors in Meriden a few days ago, and you meet a lady there whose husband is in early stages of dementia. Previously, I would have been thinking, that's really sad. What we do now, within minutes, Jenny's there with this thing saying, there's a club at Meriden Community Centre, this is happening. And for them, that's going to mean the world to them. They're very nervous and scared and thinking what's going to happen, but you can live well with dementia. I think the work we've done on that, I'm really pleased we've been able to play a part in making a big difference to lots of lives.
Thank you very much. We do have a question from the floor. Do we... Dima, will you first, and then the gentleman there.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Nirmala Singhvi. I have lived in Watford for 47 years, and I have joined One Vision as a volunteer. For me, it's a real worry about the food insecurities. I deal with service users every single day, and some sad stories. I would like Anita to answer this question because I don't know much about you. This is the first time I've seen this, so I'd like you to answer this. How, if you become a mayor, what would you do to improve this situation? It is all over the country, the food banks, and it is quite sad really, apart from feeling sad for people. I have worked in care industry for 38 years. And last 2 years I've been with One Vision, and I've had really sad stories about food insecurities. I'd like to know what you would do, please. Thank you.
Please. Thank you, Nirmala, for your question. You raised a very important point, and I must, to that, as a volunteer, I must applaud the One Vision charity for their incredible work, which I know they've done not just throughout the pandemic, but through the last few years in Watford. It's very important, the role that they play. And as someone that works for a charity myself, as my day job, I know the importance of charities and their role in society is really, really crucial and key. So incredible work that One Vision and many other charities do across Watford. Well, there's a lot that needs to be done on this issue. And I would say, given you want to know more about me, for me, as someone who understands the issues in Watford as one of you, but also can be connected into the government because I share the party that we both stand for through Dean, but also the county council. I think that alignment will do really, really well for Watford. I would work with any party, regardless of their colour, but I don't think it hurts that as a Conservative, if we had a Conservative for mayor, we could do much more to work with, not against those authorities, and ensure the best deal for Watford so that we get the support that we need where we need it. Because for me, it's about putting residents first, it's about representing them. It's not for me about, the party so much, but it would help so much to have that alignment so that we are moving in the same direction and not just, countering each other for no reason. It's a really important point. I know, if I may, Dean Russell, who is obviously a very good colleague of mine as our Member of Parliament, I must just share that he always jokes that in his first 2 years as being an MP, he delivered more bags of shopping from One Vision than he did leaflets to residents in Watford. And although that was, he says it as more of a joke, to me it's also an indictment of who needs it. And we need to ensure that people who do need the help get the support that they need. And that's why I look forward to the Chancellor's reviewing of, well, firstly, his incredible support, that, unprecedented support that he announced in the spring statement, but hopefully much, much more for the people of Watford.
Thank you, Benita. Peter and Asif, did you have any thoughts on that question? I mean, not that you need to, but if you have any thoughts.
Yeah.
Did you? Sorry? Peter, want to say?
I mean, thank you, Nemo. It's good to see you. I mean, we have done a lot of work to support the food banks. I think one of the strengths of Watford, obviously organisations like One Vision, but the fact that there is good coordination between those groups. So when it was, as Enoch will know, we had many Zoom meetings right at the beginning of COVID where we were bringing those groups together and actually saying, you know, we've got a food bank, Go Cooler, Meriden Centre, all the rest of them that are doing great things, but actually the impact is bigger when they are working together. And I think as the mayor of the town, one of the key things is that you bring people together from all backgrounds, all faiths, all political parties to get things done. And that's definitely been my approach during COVID and going forward. I mean, one of my many meetings today was about the Ukrainian arrivals and how do you make sure that they are supported when they come to this town. Again, working with people from all different backgrounds and making sure that if there are any gaps that we fill them. And I know that One Vision will be part of that in the future. But ultimately, I remember talking to Andrew Tranter, who runs the Watford Food Bank on the business park. You know, he said he wants to live in a world where he doesn't have to do that anymore. And I do think we've actually got to think, how have we got to the point where there are thousands, perhaps millions of people that are reliant on food banks, and we need to cross-party, but really have a think about how we've ended up in that situation. And we've got, you know, big cost of living issues facing Watford right now, and so I think it's a huge issue.
Briefly, I think one of my key pledges is to bring in this poverty charter for the town, and that actually gives that focus on dealing with poverty. You cannot have poverty in this time and age at the levels it is, and that's something else which will come in my manifesto about community wealth building and how the local economy, how the council can gear the local economy such it builds local people's wealth as well. So community wealth building, local businesses coming in, using the powers of the council as well. So all of those areas working together to alleviate poverty, but you know, ensuring that actually poverty is eliminated. That's the ambition that I've got as a mayor of this town.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Joe, in yellow. I think that may be our last question, and then we can conclude. Please.
Hi everyone, my name is Winston Davis. I've lived in Watford twice now, but this last time for like 10 years. I've never voted, never been interested in politics. If you told me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I'd be sat here, I'd think you're crazy. Over the last few years, I've been involved in initiative over a lot of around Christmas time with helping families that are struggling with food, toiletries, presents, whatever. And that's led me, I think, to actually wanting to have more of a voice. And actually, I looked at all of the parties, and now that I'm standing in St Albans as a Lib Dem. Now, that aside, I've been really interested in listening, because I'm just learning. I'm really interested in the whole spectrum of politics generally, and hence why I've come here tonight as well. And all three of you have been great, as someone else said, and I think we're in good hands no matter who's going to go on a personal level. But one thing is I've noticed that there's lots of finger pointing, and you know, this person's done this and this party's done this. What I'd be interested in is, you know, it's in life. If we point the finger all the time and blame somebody else for our own misgivings or things that happen, you can never have control, because you're always at the mercy of somebody else doing something to you. What I'm interested in is, what for each of you would you say is your weakest thing about you, and what do you think could be improved within your own, whoever it is, your party, who's going to be standing as the mayor of this town? Who would you think could be better? So both on a personal level and as part of your party, if that's right.
Is that okay with everyone? Yeah. Peter, did you want to start? And then move our way.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Winston, and nice to meet you. Glad you're standing in St Albans and overdoing great work over there. I know that it's a classic kind of interview question, isn't it? What's your weakness? When people are saying, well, I work too hard, I care too much. And I don't really kind of answer the question. I mean, if I'm being really truthful, I think my weakness, I've never taken criticism well. You know, at school, if anyone said anything vaguely critical, I was like, how dare they? So I think as a politician, you're told, you know, you need to have a thick skin. The people are going to say things about you. You've got to have a thick skin. I do think it's a two-edged sword. Because if you have a really thick skin, then you can lose empathy, and you don't care what people are saying and thinking. So being someone who's empathetic, who cares about what people think and the issues they have, whilst at the same time not taking things personally, is sometimes quite a difficult balance to get. But I do take on board your point about finger points. I do think it's the nature of events like this that you end up highlighting differences and kind of, you know, being perhaps more critical of others than you would normally be. Day in, day out, all three of us go around the town talking to people, doing our best, trying to help them. And when I go to events, you know, I very rarely even mention which party I am, so it's just about, you know, what's in the best interest of the town. So, you know, I do take on board that point, but I think it's perhaps the nature of this event.
Did we get the answer to what can the party do better?
Oh, what can the party do better?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, well, our campaign manager's here, so I've got to be careful what I say. Maybe make us deliver less leaflets, because my mates are killing by this time. I mean, I think that it's, you know, I know when I talk to citizens, they want to see what are you going to do for Watford, what are you going to do for this community, rather than talk about others, and I do get that. So perhaps that, as a Liberal Democrat, the thing that I'm always really keen to is that we just, you know, get coverage, because I know in lots of parts of the country it's a two-party kind of system, and people forget that there are other alternatives, the Greens and the Lib Dems out there as well.
Thank you, Peter.
Well, it's lovely to meet you, and thank you for your question. And good luck for standing for the first time, because I remember when I first stood in central Watford in 2012, and it was my first ever go at standing in local politics. I've been engaged in national politics and a bit of local. But it's a great experience, and I wish you the very best of luck, because for me, political engagement, I think you're youngish, I'll be a young person. I mean, young people getting involved in politics is something I'm so dedicated and passionate about as someone myself who has gone through the motions. And I mentioned Dorothy earlier as an inspiration to me growing up. She absolutely was and remains that way, and I think it's important to go for it, so good on you. Really encourage all of that. Well, if I'm again personally frank, my weakness here is I'm standing on a slate as the only unelected person at the moment. So, I'm standing for election in 3 weeks' time, and I really do hope to be elected, but I'm standing next to a colleague who is both a county and borough councillor, and someone who is our mayor and former borough councillor. And to what we could do more as a party, have more councillors in Watford Borough Council. That would be brilliant, and I really hope that Prashant and Linda and Ravi and others in the audience tonight are elected on May the 5th.
Thank you. I was asked this question in an interview, and what is my worst one, what's a weak point? And frankly, it's those closest to you can tell you. I said Mrs. Khan can tell you what my weak point is. I'll stick with that answer. And she loved that answer, by the way. She goes, she knows plenty of my weak points. In terms of, we don't live in a utopia. We live in where every party, every politician can do a lot better. That's the nature of human beings and the nature of parties that are led by human beings. And the more, I always say we should get more council. We could do better by winning more seats. We could do better by winning this Mayoral selection. But what I would say, I think the thrust is that I think people need to engage in politics. Don't let what we are saying put you off. Hopefully, get on with Peter, get on with Benita. We're absolutely fine outside this thing, so it says and hope. Engage in the political process, and that's so important, irrespective. I would prefer you to join a particular trend and a vision, absolutely, but engage in that political process. And if you think it's not working, join and change it. And that's the key thing that I would ask people, if you want to see a change in what you like, engage within the political parties and work to get that changed in society and make sure, and you'll get that support, with that passion that you may have. Okay? Thank you. Thanks.
Still haven't said what your weakness is.
My weakness is, I'm going to link to Mrs. Khan. She can tell me what my weaknesses are. I have, I'll leave it like that. So, you know, it's really difficult to reflect on weaknesses, and you know, do you know what? I am a Sufi Muslim. I'm a Muslim, and Sufi is somebody who constantly reflects on their own. It's a part of my faith, is that I reflect on my own, you know, my ego, try to control that. As politicians, I tell you, we've got egos. I tell you, and it's difficult. And you know, there's some of those things you control. And being, you know, having that pride, being arrogant, you know, all of those terms that you've got, those aspects. As individuals and as politicians, it's much more there. And sometimes I beat myself up, you know, not publicly, obviously, but you know, whether I've got that, I try to why, and it's because I'm serving you. I'm serving everybody else. I'll be serving people who won't be voting for me. And yeah, so am I providing that best service to you, even if though you might be my political opponent? And I would always say, yes, I will. Because my role is a public servant, and that's what the mayor position would be. I'm a councillor, I'm a county councillor, irrespective of who they are. I get casework from Boulder, the other side of the county council. Just last electoral cycle, I was the only black and Asian county councillor in the whole of Hertfordshire. Out of 70-odd counties. I used to get people from other parts of Hertfordshire contact me about casework, because they could only reflect to see, you know, let me contact him because he understands their background. You know, so you know, Black Lives Matter's happened, all those, absolutely, I was engaged in that. And that's my promise to everybody, that I will serve you irrespective of what your background is.
Thank you, Ashley. Just before we have the closing remarks from our candidates, and there's so much that we haven't even covered. It was just mentioned a moment ago. Cultural diversity, voter turnout, what keeps you up at night, crime, small businesses. Yes, the council has delivered, was 36 million, but I think that may have come from central government. Nevertheless, what are we doing post-COVID? There are issues like council tax and the cost of living. We haven't really looked at the cost of living. We could have at least another one, if not two, of these sessions, and I'm sure that there will be other hustings. We've covered quite a bit, but I think, since I don't prolong the process, why don't we start with Peter, then Benita, and then Asif, the reverse order of where we started. Closing remarks. Thereafter, Enoch will offer his vote of thanks, and we will close proceedings. Peter, please.
Thanks, Michael. I will be brief. I just want to say, first of all, a huge thank you to World Vision for organising this event, and to all of you for being here. I'm not going to go through the whole manifesto, but do look up online and cover some of the issues that you just mentioned. I think in a nutshell, you know, my vision for the town, my priorities are about making sure that Watford is a place where everyone can achieve their potential, where we have the best possible services, where we really care for the environment, and we get value for money. We keep council tax as low as it possibly can be. I've worked my town for 4 years. You know, there's things that I'm very proud of, there's things, of course, that we want to do better. And I know development came up a lot, and I just, you know, for me, it's about getting sense into that system. I think Michael's put it best, and said there is actually quite a lot of consensus about people unhappy about the current situation. The question is, how do we get there? What would people do differently? And fundamentally, I think there has to be changes to the system so that we can have sense in places like Watford and in other places under similar pressure, so that we can build new communities with the infrastructure there to support them. It's been an absolute huge honour for me to be the Mayor of Watford for the last 4 years. I would consider it a massive honour to continue in the role if voters choose to elect me again in 3 weeks' time. The final thing I would just say is, you know, I don't take this process for granted. You know, we spoke earlier about the fact that 60% of people didn't vote in the local elections. I think it's amazing and heartbreaking that in Europe, in this year, we've had elected mayors being bundled into the back of police vans and taken away in Ukraine. We must never take the democratic process for granted, and although sometimes it comes across as bickering, it's actually fundamentally important to our way of life. So thank you for being part of it this evening. As I say, it's been a huge honour. I hope you found it interesting and lively, and I'm looking forward to refreshments later. Thank you very much, everyone.
Well, thank you very much, One Vision, Enoch, Michael for chairing, and of course my opponents, Peter and Asif, and you all for being here this evening, and those who are also joining us online. It's a privilege to stand here as a lifelong resident of Watford, to be considered for the election of Mayor of my town and our town. So just thank you very much for the consideration. I have a positive vision for our town, which is rooted in what matters most for our community, so that it is a place that we can all flourish together. I'll always put people before politics. That's a pledge that I make for you this evening, alongside my plan for Watford, which you can also find online, which is rooted in those 6 pledges I shared with you earlier. I pledge to work with, and not against, the Hertfordshire County Council, the government, and of course our MP and our Westminster representative there. And instead of scoring political points, I will engage proactively for Watford and our residents. I'll stand up for you. I understand your needs and concerns. I'll stick up for you and stick with you. And I'll put you and all the residents of Watford first. I know how amazing and brilliant this town is, and how welcoming we can be to new Watfordians, but I'm convinced that we can be better. And for that, I ask you to put your trust in me and vote for me and my team on May the 5th. Thank you.
Can I thank everybody for coming? I think my lot were door knocking and leafleting today, so for the Labour Party. But my vision for Mayor is to have a town that goes beyond what we've been having for the past 20 years. A town that stands up for everyone. Don't let anybody fall behind. We are only as strong as the weakest. And that's what my vision is for this particular town, and that's what my mayoral candidature is about. To eliminate poverty, we can't have that now in this town. To build more social housing and get rid of these towers that blight the sky. To tackle the climate emergency that's happening. That is going to have an impact on all of us. Investing in all our spaces, all our shopping centres across the whole of Watford. Bringing all our communities together. I didn't mention that I'll be supporting the faith covenant that the County Council is leading on in this town. Bringing faiths together more and more. And making sure that people are feeling safe and secure in this town. That's what I would bring and develop and make this town even better for everybody to live in, whether you are from young or from old, from whatever background you're going to be coming from. And that's what I promised to you, this is what I pledge to you when I'm your mayor. Thank you.
As Enoch comes forward, we're reminded some of the other issues we didn't touch on. Young people, refugees, creating new jobs, the list goes on. I'm hoping that you will stay behind and we can have, over some light refreshments, we'll continue the conversation. But Enoch, in the meantime, would you be kind to come forward for the vote of thanks?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and listening to the wonderful candidates. And thank you, all the candidates, and congratulations for your upcoming election. Thank you, Michael, for leading this hosting. This is the first one, I believe, before the election, and you might be going through many before the election as well. So it's given you a bit of a good platform practice for you. Thank you, my good friend, sorting out the audio and also the YouTube Live. I just want to share a few things. I'll probably start with the previous elections. When Peter became the mayor, he wasn't expecting the COVID to arrive. 2 years later, the actual Watford was run by volunteers. Let me tell you a story I want to share with you. When the COVID started, March 2020, people were scared, shutting the doors behind, 2 meters distance, staying away. If you sneeze, they run away. And people were self-isolating. The elderly people were staying indoors. There are people who do not know what's going to happen to their life tomorrow or today. But the lovely volunteers of One Vision and many other places, they came out, going to their doorsteps, talking to their neighbors, delivering food parcels, looking after, caring about others. They are the one who was running the country, other than Watford, for the last 2 years. We got 64 volunteers in One Vision. Let me tell you, 26 drivers since 2020, they're still with us. They go every single day, despite the petrol crisis. They spend their own money. And the teachers across the Watford schools, when the schools were shut, they're worried about their children. They spend their own money to feed their children. And I want to say the 4 arms we work on every single day when I leave Watford, along with my family or friends, Aljit, we think about feeding the community. Food poverty is not going to go away. It's building. And we listen to every single day people call and ask about the food. It's very sad. We live in a very developed first world country. The second one is, we live also in a fractured community. We divided. And we try to bring them all together, because when we work together, we can achieve a lot. The young people, during the COVID, let me tell you, their mental health has shooted up. They're not sure about what's going on during the COVID and also after the COVID. And the mental health, people talk about mental health and well-being. There are hundreds and hundreds of people are suffering with this. Their life is going to be challenging. This is a new beginning for, like I said, congratulations to become a mayor for the Watford. It's going to be a new journey for you. And the people you're going to see in the community is not the same people you've seen them. And I can guarantee you, and I thank for all the donors who donate to care about others. And I want to thank all the volunteers again, wherever you are. I want to salute them, the NHS, and the people who care about our town. And we need to look after them. We need to care about them. I preached many sermons in my life. As a Christian, and I do a lot of sermons I preach. But since the COVID, I tried to start practicing, stop preaching now. And I want to live a life to be a good friend for others. And I'm sure that when you become a leader again, or a new leader, please work together for the betterment of our town. Thank you so much for everyone. The refreshment is there.
Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Louisa. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, audience. Stay safe and don't forget to vote on the 5th of May. Now,